Hello 4C1, Teacher Jesse here again with another video. Today's video is on Unit 7, Lesson 3, Animals of Australia. Alright, let's get started. So, let's look at the pictures of these two animals on the screen here. Okay? We can think about animals in two ways. We can think about common animals like this cow right here. Everyone around the world knows what a cow is. There's cows everywhere. There's cows in America, cows in Africa, cows in Asia, cows in Europe, cows in Australia. They're common because they're everywhere. Whereas the platypus here is not a common animal. We call this kind of animal a rare animal because it's really the only one like it of its kind. Cows are everywhere, but there's also many different kinds of cows, okay? The platypus is not the same. There's only one kind of platypus, and there's only one kind of animal like it in the world. It's a mammal, but it doesn't have teeth. It has a bill like a duck, okay? It's a mammal, but it lays eggs like a bird or a reptile. So it's a very rare animal, unlike the cow, which is a very common animal. So, animals that seem rare to you might actually be pretty common in the country that they live. So let's take a look at some animals of Australia. And as we look at these animals, I want you to think to yourself, is this a common animal or is this a rare animal? All right, let's take a look. The first animal we have is this one right here. This animal is called the numbat. Everyone say numbat. Okay. It doesn't look very strange. Maybe it looks a little bit strange. I think it kind of looks like a cross between a fox and a squirrel. Okay. Our next animal is the koala. Now, koalas don't live everywhere in the world, but I'm sure you've seen at least a picture of a koala before. Or you've seen a koala on a movie or on a documentary or maybe on a YouTube video. Maybe even some of you have seen a koala in real life if you've gone to the zoo, or maybe you're lucky enough to have visited Australia and you saw a koala while you're there. Okay, so koala is our second animal. Let's look at our next animal. Our next animal is a little bit funny looking. It's got very big ears and a tiny little face. Okay, this animal is called the bilby. It kind of looks like a mouse and a rabbit. If you put those two together, you would have something that looks like the bilby. And our very last animal for today is called the Tasmanian devil. Everyone say that out loud. Tasmanian devil. Tasmania is a country. So the Tasmanian devil is an animal that is native to the country of Tasmania, which is part of Australia. Okay? So, what do you think? Are these animals common or rare? Well, I think generally speaking, all of these animals are pretty rare. Even if you have seen them before, even if you've even seen one in real life before, they are not common animals around the world. They only exist in Australia, and they are also rare for another very important reason that we are going to learn about today. So, we have a reading from your class book here. This is from Unit 7, Lesson 3. And we are going to listen to the audio that goes along with this reading. And as you can see, some of the words are missing. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So, we have to listen and we have to figure out what the missing words are. So, now at this point, I want you to take out a piece of paper or a notebook and something to write with, okay? And I'm going to play the audio, and I want you to listen for the missing words, and I want you to write them down and number them 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? I'm going to play the audio now, so listen carefully.
Australia is home to many unique species of animal, such as the famous kangaroos and koalas. It is also home to deadly and dangerous saltwater crocodiles, snakes and spiders. Strange, unusual animals such as the echidna and the platypus live here too. But did you know that some of these animals are now endangered species? This means that large numbers are dying, fewer animals are producing babies, and soon there might not be any left at all. Unique Australian animals such as koalas, numbats, Tasmanian devils and bilbies are all examples of endangered species.
Okay, now I want you to reread again by yourself now that you know all of the missing words. And I want you to answer one question as you read. When you find the answer to this question, I want you to answer the question, and I also want you to write down the evidence that you found in the paragraph. We can't underline the evidence, so I want you to write it down. The question is this: what is the problem with the animals? Okay, what is the problem with animals in Australia? I want you to think about your answer and write it on your piece of paper now. If you need to take some extra time, push pause on your video, take as much time as you need. When you're ready to see the answer, go ahead and hit play again, and we'll see the answer together. Okay, so what is the problem with these animals in Australia? Well, the problem is that all of these animals that is talked about in this paragraph, all of them are endangered. And here we have the evidence from our paragraph. Unique Australian animals such as koalas, numbats, Tasmanian devils, and bilbies are all examples of endangered species. We also could have underlined evidence up here which says, did you know that some of these animals are now endangered species? This means that large numbers are dying, fewer animals are producing babies, and soon there might not be any left at all. Okay? So, before we listen to this paragraph, I told you that the animals that we saw in the pictures are very rare for another important reason. And this is the important reason. Not only are they rare because they don't exist everywhere in the world, they only exist in Australia, they're also rare because more are dying than are being born. And the animals are at risk of all dying. Okay, that's what it means to be endangered. An endangered animal is at risk of going extinct. An extinct animal is something like the dinosaurs. It's an animal that is no longer around anymore. It used to be around, but all of them died off and no new ones were born. Okay, so let's move on to some comprehension questions from the reading. So on your piece of paper or in your notebook, I have 3 questions here. Question number 1, why is the koala an endangered animal in some parts of Australia? No, that's not what we're supposed to do. Okay, now we're going to listen to more of the article. And as you listen, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Why is the koala an endangered animal in some parts of Australia? Number 2, why are there fewer bilbies and numbats in the wild now? Number 3, what has happened to Tasmanian devils since the 1990s? Okay, so 3 questions. I want you to listen for the answer and write the answer on your paper or in your notebook. Okay, here we go.
Track 38. Unique Australian animals such as koalas, numbats, Tasmanian devils and bilbies are all examples of endangered species. So why do animals become endangered? Well, there are several reasons. Many species of animals lose their homes when towns are built on their habitats, places such as fields and forests where they live. In some parts of Australia, this has happened to the habitat of the koala. There are still large numbers of koalas in some parts of Australia, but in other parts their numbers are dropping. Several hundred years ago, there were millions of koalas. Now some experts think that there are fewer than 50,000 left in the wild. The bilby is another unique Australian animal that is now rare in some parts of the country. Numbers of bilbies are getting smaller because human beings destroy their habitats to build houses and towns. Some animals become endangered because they are killed by other animals, such as cats and foxes. This has happened to large numbers of bilbies and another special Australian animal called the numbat. Native animals like bilbies, numbats and koalas have existed in Australia for many thousands of years. Animals like cats and foxes are quite new to Australia and were introduced by people who settled there a few hundred years ago. Some animals become endangered because they catch diseases and become very ill. When one animal catches a disease, it is very easy for another to catch it too, because they live close to each other and eat the same food. This has happened to the Tasmanian devil, a noisy and aggressive little animal that only lives in the state of Tasmania. There are still plenty of Tasmanian devils, but since the 1990s, many have died from a disease called DVTD. This disease is now present in 60% of the island of Tasmania. Australian scientists are doing research to find a cure for the disease, and the Tasmanian devil has become a protected species. Nowadays, the government of Australia works hard to protect its endangered animals. In some areas, there are rules to stop people building houses on the places where these animals live. Then they can live in peace and produce more young to make the population grow again.
Okay, welcome back for C1. Were you able to hear all the answers to the questions? If you didn't, please listen again until you're able to answer all of the questions here on the screen. Okay, so if you have got all the answers, let's check them now to see if our answers are the same. Number 1, why is the koala an endangered animal in some parts of Australia? Well, because people have built towns on their habitats, okay? Habitat is very important for animals' survival. And if you destroy all of their habitat by building a town or a city where the animals live, then they have nowhere to live. If they have nowhere to live, it's hard for them to survive. Question number 2, why are there fewer bilbies and numbats in the wild now? Well, because they are killed by other animals. Remember that foxes and cats and animals like that are new to Australia, okay? So these foxes and these cats are killing animals like bilbies and numbats, and they're killing them faster than those animals can reproduce and make new babies. And question number 3, what has happened to Tasmanian devils since the 1990s? They may have died from a disease called DVDT, which is very dangerous for the Tasmanian devils. So, if they catch the disease, it's likely that they will die. And if many of them catch the disease, it's hard for the whole species to continue to survive. All right, so now I want you to listen again, and I want you to fill out the table here with reasons why these animals are endangered. Reasons why the koala is endangered, reasons why the numbat is endangered, reasons why the bilby is endangered, and finally, reasons why the Tasmanian devil is endangered. Okay? And I'm going to play the audio one more time so you can hear all the answers to these questions. Alright, I'm going to do that now.
Unique Australian animals, such as koalas, numbats, Tasmanian devils, and bilbies, are all examples of endangered species. So why do animals become endangered? Well, there are several reasons. Many species of animals lose their homes when towns are built on their habitats, places such as fields and forests where they live. In some parts of Australia, this has happened to the habitat of the koala. There are still large numbers of koalas in some parts of Australia, but in other parts their numbers are dropping. Several hundred years ago, there were millions of koalas. Now some experts think that there are fewer than 50,000 left in the wild. The bilby is another unique Australian animal that is now rare in some parts of the country. Numbers of bilbies are getting smaller because human beings destroy their habitats to build houses and towns. Some animals become endangered because they are killed by other animals, such as cats and foxes. This has happened to large numbers of bilbies and another special Australian animal called the numbat. Native animals like bilbies, numbats and koalas have existed in Australia for many thousands of years. Animals like cats and foxes are quite new to Australia and were introduced by people who settled there a few hundred years ago. Some animals become endangered because they catch diseases and become very ill. When one animal catches a disease, it is very easy for another to catch it too, because they live close to each other and eat the same food. This has happened to the Tasmanian devil, a noisy and aggressive little animal that only lives in the state of Tasmania. There are still plenty of Tasmanian devils, but since the 1990s, many have died from a disease called DVTD. This disease is now present in 60% of the island of Tasmania. Australian scientists are doing research to find a cure for the disease, and the Tasmanian devil has become a protected species. Nowadays, the government of Australia works hard to protect its endangered animals. In some areas, there are rules to stop people building houses on the places where these animals live. Then they can live in peace and produce more young to make the population grow again.
Okay, 4C1. Were you able to find all of the reasons that these animals are endangered? If you didn't find reasons for all of the animals, please listen again until you can complete the table. If you have completed the table, let's take a look and see if our answers are the same. Okay, so the koala. Why is the koala endangered? Well, the koala is endangered because people destroy their habitats to build houses. Next, why is the numbat endangered? Well, the numbat is endangered because they are killed by other animals such as cats and foxes. Why is the bilby endangered? The bilby is endangered because people destroy their habitats to build houses, just like with the koala, and they are killed by other animals such as cats and foxes, just like the numbat. And finally, the Tasmanian devil is endangered because they are at risk of a disease called DVDT. Just like we are at risk of the corona, the Tasmanian devil is at risk of getting DVDT. So it has to be very careful. All right, did you get all of these answers? Good job. If you didn't, try harder next time. Okay, now we must listen again and answer these 4 sentences, okay? We must complete them by filling in the missing word. All right, listen again, everybody. Are you ready?
Some animals become endangered because they catch diseases and become very ill. When one animal catches a disease, it is very easy for another to catch it too, because they live close to each other and eat the same food. This has happened to the Tasmanian devil, a noisy and aggressive little animal that only lives in the state of Tasmania. There are still plenty of Tasmanian devils, but since the 1990s, many have died from a disease called DVTD. This disease is now present in 60% of the island of Tasmania. Australian scientists are doing research to find a cure for the disease, and the Tasmanian devil has become a protected species. Nowadays, the government of Australia works hard to protect its endangered animals. In some areas, there are rules to stop people building houses on the places where these animals live. Then they can live in peace and produce more young to make the population grow again.
Okay, welcome back one more time. Now, I hope that you've had a chance to listen and answer all of these questions. If you didn't, you know what to do. Please be responsible. Okay, question number 1. Australian scientists are doing research to find a cure for the disease called DVDT. Now my example here is a little bit different than yours. Mine doesn't have a space for this last part, but I know that yours does. So, Australian scientists are doing research to find a cure for a disease called DVDT. Answer number 1. Question number 2. Nowadays, the government of Australia works hard to protect its endangered animals. Number 3. There are rules to stop people building houses on places where these animals live. And number 4. They can live in peace and produce more young to make the population grow again. Did you get all those answers? Okay, good job, everybody. All right, now let's review so we can try and remember some of our animal friends that we met earlier in our lesson today. Okay? Remember, there are 4 animals. You are going to see a picture that's a little bit hard to tell what that picture is. You must guess who that animal is. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay. On the right-hand side, you see a picture of an animal. On the left side, you see a circle. This is your timer. When time is up, you will see the correct answer. Okay. You have 5 seconds to guess. Did you say it was the numbat? If you did, good job. All right, let's move on to our next animal friend. Okay, what is it? Make your guess in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you guess the Tasmanian devil? If you did, good job. All right, 2 more animals. Who is our next one? I want your guess in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's the bilby. And our final animal, you probably already know who it is, but let's take a look anyway. Who is it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the koala. Okay, that's all the time we have for today for C1. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.